My hands were shaking as I read the message on her screen, and the name I saw made my stomach drop. It was a text from my fiancée, Emma, to her friend, Sarah, and it was clear that Emma had been having an affair with Sarah's husband, Alex. I felt like I had been punched in the gut, and my mind was racing with questions. How long had this been going on? Did our other friends know? Why had Emma lied to me for so long? I took a deep breath and tried to calm myself down, but my mind was flooded with memories of the past few years. Emma and I had met in college, and we had been together ever since. We had planned our future together, and I had thought that our relationship was strong. But now, I realized that I had been blind to the truth. Emma had been cheating on me, and our friends had known about it. The workplace where I spent most of my time was a small family business, a quaint bookstore in the heart of the city. The smell of old books and freshly brewed coffee filled the air, and the sound of quiet chatter and rustling pages created a sense of comfort and tranquility. But now, the familiar surroundings seemed to mock me, reminding me of the happy times Emma and I had shared, and the lies she had told me. As I walked through the bookstore, I saw my co-workers chatting and laughing, oblivious to the storm brewing inside me. My best friend, Jack, was restocking the shelves, and he greeted me with a warm smile. "Hey, man, how's it going?" he asked, but I just shook my head and muttered something about being tired. I didn't know how to tell him what I had just discovered. The next few days were a blur of emotions, as I struggled to come to terms with the betrayal. Emma and I had been living together, and it was hard to see her every day, knowing what she had done. We had conversations, but they were strained, and I couldn't help but wonder if she was still in touch with Alex. I felt like I was losing my mind, and I didn't know how to deal with the friends who had known about the affair. There was Sarah, who had been a close friend of ours, and her husband, Alex, who had been Emma's lover. They had all been complicit in the affair, and I couldn't understand why they had chosen to betray me like that. I started to question our whole friendship group, wondering if anyone else had known about the affair. As the days turned into weeks, I realized that I had to take action. I couldn't just sit back and do nothing, pretending that everything was fine. I started to distance myself from Emma and our friends, trying to figure out what to do next. Emma thought that I was overreacting, that our friends had nothing to do with the affair, and that it was all her fault. But I knew that our friends had enabled her behavior, and that they had chosen to prioritize their relationships with her over our friendship. When Emma said, "I know I made a mistake, but I love you, and I want us to work through this," I felt a mix of emotions. Part of me wanted to forgive her, to move on and try to rebuild our relationship. But another part of me was angry, and I couldn't shake the feeling that our friends had betrayed me too. "How can I trust you, when our friends knew about the affair and did nothing?" I asked, my voice shaking with emotion. Emma looked at me, tears in her eyes, and said, "They didn't know, I swear. They would never do that to you." But I knew that she was lying, and that our friends had been complicit in the affair. I realized that I had to cut ties with them, to protect myself from further hurt. And if you have ever felt this kind of betrayal, you already know what I was feeling in that moment. If stories like this hit close to home, subscribe to Karma Chronicles, because every week we tell the stories nobody else is brave enough to share. I took a deep breath and started to plan my next move. I knew that I had to confront our friends, to make them understand that their actions had consequences. I started by talking to Jack, my best friend, who had been oblivious to the affair. "I need to tell you something," I said, my voice low and serious. "Emma was having an affair, and our friends knew about it." Jack's eyes widened in shock, and he said, "What? How is that possible?" I told him everything, and he listened, his face growing darker with each passing minute. Together, we hatched a plan to expose the truth, to make our friends understand that their actions had hurt me deeply. We started by gathering evidence, looking for proof of the affair and the friends who had known about it. It wasn't easy, but we were determined to see justice served. We talked to other friends, people who had been on the periphery of our social circle, and they told us that they had suspected something was going on. They had seen Emma and Alex together, flirting and laughing, and they had wondered if something was wrong. As we gathered more evidence, I realized that the truth was more complex than I had initially thought. Emma and Alex had been having an affair for years, and our friends had known about it, but they had chosen to keep it a secret. They had prioritized their relationships with Emma and Alex over our friendship, and they had enabled the affair to continue. The day of reckoning arrived when we decided to confront our friends at a party. The music was loud, and the drinks were flowing, but I was determined to make my point. I stood up, my heart pounding in my chest, and said, "I know what's been going on, and I know that some of you have been complicit in the affair." The room fell silent, and all eyes were on me. Emma and Alex looked at each other, their faces pale with fear. Sarah stepped forward, her voice shaking, and said, "We didn't mean to hurt you, we were just trying to protect our friends." But I cut her off, my voice firm. "You didn't protect me, you protected the people who were hurting me. You chose to prioritize your relationships with them over our friendship, and that's not okay." The room erupted into a mixture of gasps and shouts, and our friends started to argue among themselves. The next morning, I walked into the bookstore, and my co-workers looked at me with a mixture of curiosity and concern. Jack, Rachel, and Mike approached me, their faces serious. "Hey, man, we heard what happened last night," Jack said. "We're sorry that you had to go through that." Rachel added, "We had no idea what was going on, but we're glad that you're taking care of yourself." Mike nodded in agreement, and said, "You deserve better than friends who would betray you like that." As I looked at my co-workers, I realized that I had found a new sense of purpose. I had taken a stand against the people who had hurt me, and I had come out stronger on the other side. I knew that I still had a long way to go, but I was determined to rebuild my life, to find new friends who would truly care about me. 3 months later, I was in a much better place. I had cut ties with Emma and our friends, and I had started to focus on myself. I had started taking classes, learning new skills, and I had even started dating again. I realized that I deserved to be happy, and that I didn't have to settle for people who would hurt me. As for Emma and our friends, they had all suffered the consequences of their actions. Emma and Alex's affair had been exposed, and they had lost the respect of our social circle. Sarah and the others had apologized for their role in the affair, but I had chosen not to forgive them. I knew that I deserved better than friends who would betray me, and I was determined to surround myself with people who would truly care about me. In the end, karma had served its purpose, and justice had been served. I had taken a stand against the people who had hurt me, and I had come out stronger on the other side. I had learned that true friends would never betray me, and that I deserved to be happy. And as I closed the chapter on that painful part of my life, I knew that I would never forget the lessons I had learned, and that I would always prioritize my own well-being, because in the end, that's all that truly matters.